Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, you know what piece of financial advice literally drives me up the wall? It's when someone smugly tells you to just, budget better. It's right up there with just stop being stressed or just pay off your debt. Like, gee, thanks. It sounds super practical until you realize it means absolutely nothing, zero direction. How do we budget better? Where do we even start? Well, today, we're fixing that. We are tossing that empty phrase out the window and replacing it with a ridiculously straightforward, simple budgeting method that actually works. We're going to break the whole shebang down right now.
So let's dive right in. The phrase just budget better says absolutely nothing. Useless advice, right? So we're officially tossing out all that vague, unhelpful chatter. Instead of just throwing our hands up in frustration, we are bringing in an actual, concrete method that tells you exactly where every single dollar goes. We're looking at a framework today that takes all the guesswork and honestly, all the emotion completely out of the equation.
Because let's look at reality for a second. For most of us, bank balance plus vibes equals stress. Let's be real, a lot of people's current budgeting system is just logging into their banking app, glancing at the balance, and kind of just vibing it out. You see a number and think, yeah, I think I can afford dinner out tonight. Which, hey, works great right up until the vibe is wrong and suddenly rent is due in 3 days and the math totally doesn't add up. Managing your money based on a vibe is basically a one-way ticket to constant financial anxiety. We need a system here, not a feeling.
Enter the 50-30-20 rule. This is a super simple budgeting framework that divides your take-home pay, meaning, the actual money that hits your bank account after taxes, into 3 specific buckets: needs, wants, and savings, or debt. That's it. No complicated spreadsheets with 50 tiny, annoying categories. This is the foundational solution to money anxiety, mainly because it calmly and rationally organizes your paycheck into 3 crystal-clear categories the very second you get paid.
So, how are these buckets actually weighted? Well, 50% of your take-home pay goes to your absolute needs. We're talking rent, groceries, utilities, and the minimum required payments on any debt you owe. Then, 30% goes to your wants. This is the fun stuff: dining out, streaming subscriptions, weekend entertainment. And finally, 20% goes to savings and extra debt payoff, meaning any of those debt payments beyond the required minimums.
But let's be honest, abstract percentages kind of mean nothing without real math attached to them, right? So let's look at a concrete reality. We're going to use an example monthly take-home pay of exactly $4,000. Let's pretend that is what lands in your checking account over the course of the month, and we're going to run that exact number through this 50-30-20 system to see what it actually looks like in practice.
Okay, let's walk step by step through splitting that paycheck. Out of that $4,000, 50% or $2,000 is walled off immediately for your needs. 30% or $1,200 is carved out for your wants, and that final 20%, which comes out to $800, is designated for your savings and your extra debt payoff. Notice how taking a vague rule and applying real math just completely changes the dynamic? You aren't guessing anymore. You have hard, unmoving dollar amounts for exactly what you can afford in every single category of your life.
Breaking these into 3 distinct buckets emphasizes a really vital mindset shift. This replaces financial anxiety with a concrete, checkable system. Think about it. When you want to know if you can afford to go to a concert or buy a new video game, you don't just look at your total bank balance and guess anymore. You look at that $1,200 wants bucket. Had you hit the limit for the month? If not, buy it, totally guilt-free. If you have, well, you wait until next month. It literally transforms this abstract cloud of stress into 3 clear numbers you can measure yourself against.
Now let's zoom in on that 20% bucket for a second, that $800 from our example. This bucket is the vital glue for your broader financial journey. This isn't just money sitting around gathering dust. It has a very specific job in a specific order. First, that 20% directly funds your emergency stash. Then, once that's full, that exact same 20% redirects to aggressive extra debt payoff. And once the bad debt is finally gone, that same 20% flows directly into your eventual investments. Basically, this bucket is the engine that actually builds your wealth over time.
But let's pause here. We need to address the elephant in the room. Is the 50-30-20 rule actually realistic for everyone? And I want to be completely straight with you here. No, it isn't always perfect. The reality is, we live in a world where housing costs have skyrocketed. If you live in a high cost of living area, like New York or San Francisco, your rent alone might easily eat way more than 50% of your income. And it is incredibly important to acknowledge that math. So what on earth do you do when the golden rule doesn't perfectly fit your reality?
Well, when we adjust for reality, the framework just has to flex. Your needs might take up 70%, leaving 20% for wants and maybe 10% for savings and debt. The absolutely crucial point here is that The true goal of this framework isn't rigidly sticking to the exact 50-30-20 ratio, like it's some sort of immutable law of physics. The true goal is having some intentional system in place. Even if your reality is 70-20-10, you're still actively telling your money where to go, rather than just letting it evaporate.
Now, if the percentage bucket system just doesn't click with how your brain works, no worries. There are other fantastic tools out there. There's zero-based budgeting, where literally every single dollar is assigned a specific job before the month even begins, leaving you with zero unassigned dollars. Or there's the envelope method, where you use physical cash envelopes or digital apps to place hard spending caps on very specific categories, like groceries or gas. Both of these are just different tools to achieve the exact same goal, telling your money what to do.
And while we're at it, let's completely bust the biggest anti-budget myth out there. The myth is that budgeting means absolutely no fun allowed, that it's just misery, deprivation, and staring blankly at spreadsheets. But the reality? Fun has a budget too. That 30% bucket explicitly protects your fun money. A good budget does not eliminate your joy. It actually gives you explicit permission to spend on the things you love without that nagging, terrible guilt that you should be saving it instead.
So to bring this all together and summarize exactly what we've unpacked in this explainer today: 50 for your needs, 30 for your wants, and 20 for future you. This rule is ultimately about finally giving your hard-earned paycheck a structured, logical plan, instead of relying on a fleeting vibe. It's about taking control, significantly reducing your financial stress, and making absolutely sure that while you're covering your basic survival and enjoying your life today, you are also steadily building a rock-solid foundation for your future self.
Which leaves us with this final, very important question to consider. Will you give your next paycheck a plan, or will you just give it a vibe? The choice is entirely in your hands, but only one of those choices leads to real financial peace of mind. I really hope this breakdown gave you the clarity you need to start directing your dollars with actual intention. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to this Explainer series for more clear, structured financial breakdowns. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I will see you in the next one.